How did I go from struggling with English to becoming fluent in English and French and now learning German? Over the years, I tried everything to become fluent in English classes, grammar, study plans. But one habit made the biggest difference by far. It's what allowed me to understand real English and express my ideas naturally. And no, I didn't move to an English speaking country or buy expensive programs. I built this system from home. In this video, I'll show you exactly what that habit is and how you can apply it. Many of you treat English like a history lesson, something to be memorized, not lived. You've invested years into studying English, but you haven't gotten the results you want. One mistake I see a lot of students make is trying to memorize English through grammar rules, as if English were math. In reality, achieving fluency means letting the language become second nature to you. The secret I learned from becoming fluent in English and French and that I am now applying in my German studies is that fluency isn't found in a textbook, a course, or even a tutor. It is forged in the hours between your study sessions. You have to build it through daily activities. If you only engage with the language during your scheduled study time, you're leaving massive gaps that prevent anything from sticking. Without daily contact, you are moving forward, you're just running in place. And I know this because I lived it. When I was first learning English, I followed the rules to a T. I attended every class, I did all my drills, and I finished all my homework. On paper, I was a good student. I knew the grammar and I had the vocabulary. But the moment I tried to actually share my thoughts or have a meaningful conversation in English, I froze. It was as if I didn't know English at all. All the hours of study vanished when I needed them most. I ended up drowning in frustration, convinced that learning English was impossible for someone like me, someone living outside an English-speaking country. I didn't know what I was doing wrong, so I did some research online about the best methods and strategies for learning languages. And I stumbled upon tips from people who speak multiple languages, the polyglot community. The gist of their message was that you have to learn through activities you enjoy and by surrounding yourself with the language. So, what did I do to get fluent? I created my own English lifestyle so I could use English all the time, not only when I studied it. Here is exactly how I did it. First, I started with reading. I've loved books since I was a child, but for the longest time, reading English felt like a chore, something you only did to pass an exam. I couldn't imagine learning a language through reading. I was so used to the traditional method, but I decided to give it a shot. If it worked for the polyglots, why wouldn't it work for me? I'll be honest, the beginning was awful. I chose the reading material without considering my level. And as a result, I felt like I couldn't understand anything because there were so many unknown words. But instead of giving up, I started looking for material designed for beginners and intermediate learners. I paired it with the audio so I could learn the words through pronunciation as well. And as a result, the impact was immediate. Not only did my vocabulary explode, but my brain started to actually get used to English. And gradually, I stopped translating in my head and I started grasping the deep, real meaning of the words. Second, I completely changed the way I consume content. Like most people, I spent a lot of time online, so I decided to make that time work for me. So I switched everything to English, my phone and laptop settings. All the YouTube videos that I used to watch in Spanish, where they were about science, sports, or any of my other interests, I started watching in English instead. At the beginning, I focused on short educational content like videos from channels such as TED or Kurgasak. That way, I could learn new words, enjoy the content, and avoid feeling completely overwhelmed by the unknown vocabulary. At first, it was really hard. I had to pause, rewind, and look up words constantly. But because I was genuinely interested in the topics, I didn't stop even with all the interruptions. I knew that if I kept going, it would get easier over time. And after a couple of months, it became much more manageable. I started to notice that vocabulary within specific topics repeats itself. And by exposing myself to the same topics every day, the language finally clicked. I wasn't studying vocabulary lists, I was learning through context and through exposure. And little by little, I began to step out of my comfort zone. And I started watching longer and more challenging videos, and listening to podcasts on a wide variety of topics. At this point, my life was basically immersed in English. Well, at least on the input side. And as I got better and better, the difficulty of the material increased as well. I started reading novels and non-fiction books in English. This is actually key for speaking, but I'll get back to that in a moment. I also added podcasts and listened to them while doing tasks that didn't require 100% of my focus. So while cooking, cleaning, or driving, I was always listening. That gave me a lot of extra exposure to new words and ideas. I also ventured into TV shows. That's where I pick up a lot of everyday natural vocabulary, things that weren't always present in the material I was using before. And so I made it a habit to watch 1 or 2 episodes every single day, some days with subtitles and some days without. The key here was consistency and enjoyment. But at some point, I had to create opportunities to speak. Up until then, I was relying almost entirely on input-based learning. And for speaking, it doesn't work as well. You don't learn how to drive by reading about it, right? To speak well, you need to speak a lot, and you need feedback. Since I didn't have anyone to practice with, here's what I did. First, I used the shadowing technique. I chose a podcast and repeated what the speaker said as accurately as possible. This helped me a lot with pronunciation and intonation. Second, I talked to myself. Before going to sleep or while driving, I would talk about my day, my goals, my dreams, or some recent conversation I had. Finally, I recorded myself speaking, then I listened back and reviewed it, and I looked for grammar and collocation mistakes. I also noted words I was overusing, so later with a thesaurus, I could learn synonyms or other words that were more appropriate for the context. I also paid really close attention to my pronunciation. Earlier, I mentioned that reading novels and non-fiction books in English was key to speaking. Here's my 2 reasons for that. First, I listened to the audiobook while I read. This is a powerful combination because when we read, we kind of overpronounce the words in our heads. Hearing the correct pronunciation is key when you encounter new words and also reinforces the ones you already know. Second, I read out loud. I played with the intonation, the volume, and the speed, so my mouth really got used to the movements that are required to produce the correct sound. Why does this approach work so well? Because languages aren't learned by collecting rules. They are learned through use. You can memorize hundreds of words from a list, but if you never use them, they will disappear. On the other hand, when you hear the same words, read them, and actually try to use them again and again, they're gonna stick, almost automatically. That's what happens when you surround yourself with English. Improvement stops being something you try to do, and it becomes something inevitable. Think about the people who move to an English-speaking country. After a few months, they don't become magically geniuses. They improve because English is everywhere. They hear it, read it, and use it every day. That's how fluency really happens, by living the language daily. And this is the one thing that gave me the biggest results. I stopped treating languages like a subject, and I started treating it like a tool. I switched my content, my devices, and even my hobbies to English. Not because it was comfortable, but because it was effective. And the best part is that you don't need to spend a lot of money or to move abroad. All that you need is internet. Yes, at the beginning it feels awkward. You struggle, you'll make mistakes, but this is normal, this is part of the process. But if you keep going, something changes. English stopped feeling forced, it starts feeling natural.